Got a new case and we're heading to Miami. So this is Cryptic Killers. This is the first time I'm playing a game from their series. I just chose this one because I kind of like the theme. They have a lot more cases, so I'll probably get to them eventually, but let's just get right into it. So we can go ahead and read the intro in the back. It's 1985 and Miami is being terrorized by a serial killer dubbed the Miami Madman. Craig Flint, the star of popular TV series Florida Squad, has just been discovered dead in his car with the killer's distinctive mark cut into his chest. This might be our golden opportunity to apprehend the Miami Madmen and halt their murderous rampage. All relevant evidence has been gathered for you. Your task is to identify Craig's murderer regardless of whether it's the Miami Madman or not. There are 36 documents in this folder. In addition to the evidence found here, you will also be required to access the internet to uncover further information associated with this case. Your mission is simple. Eliminate as many of the suspects as possible so that we can find Craig's killer and bring them to justice. So I have the physical documents here, but what I typically do is scan all the documents so that's easier for me to read. Also, it's easier for you guys to see. It's easier to zoom in on things, and it doesn't make a huge mess on my table here. And I feel like I need to say this every time. Yes, I go through each document and scan it, and no, I do not share documents. So first, inside this folder, we have some more introduction. Important. Welcome to this immersive unsolved case file game by Cryptic Killers. Some of this looks similar, but I do think it's different. It's 1985 and Miami is being terrorized by a serial killer dubbed the Miami Madman. Craig Flint, the star of popular TV series Florida Squad, has just been discovered dead in his car with the killer's distinctive mark cut into his chest. We already read this. This might be our golden opportunity to apprehend the Miami Madman and halt their murderous rampage. Inside the case file, you'll find newspaper articles, statements, photographs, and more. You'll also be required to access an online database containing additional evidence. Your mission is simple. Read the evidence, eliminate the innocent suspects, and find a killer. Instructions. As the lead detective working on this case, your aim is to find the killer or killers. Finding the killer or killers won't be easy. You'll need to familiarize yourself with all of the evidence provided, including any online content that is mentioned. Internet access will be required to crack the case. Having observed all of the evidence, it may be helpful to identify potential suspects and their motives, determine which suspect each piece of evidence belongs to, and attempt to find an alibi for as many of the suspects as possible. You'll see in a bit, I tried to group some documents together where I think they fit in the folder. I don't think they came in any particular order, so I guess we'll be moving stuff around. Or not, we'll see. Through the process of elimination, we're confident that you'll bring the culprit or culprits to justice. Then they have something for missing evidence. There's some hints if we need it, and then this is probably where we put our solution. All right, let's go on to the first document. So again, not in any particular order, but when I did open the folder, there were these photos first. So this is probably the mark that was left on the victim. Polaroid of M signature. See Craig Dexter Flint coroner's report. Craig Dexter Flint is our victim. There's a key fob. Dolphin earrings found in Mr. Flint's mailbox for the Miami Dolphins. Keys found at Flint's place. Okay, we got like an anchor here. There's some numbers there. We'll see if that's relevant. And there's a photo. I don't know if these are brothers. It looks kind of like an older photo. Not too sure. Then this looks like some film. You can see a guy sitting by an airplane. There's the numbers of the plane is very clear here. Looks like he has some tattoo on his chest. Yeah, I don't think, unless it's a tank top, this is from a movie or the show. There's a close-up on his face. I don't know. We don't have enough info yet, so we'll just move on. So the next documents I wanted to focus on are kind of the police-related documents, whether they're reports or even witness statements. First one we have here is, I guess, just a checklist to make sure we're not missing any documents. And then I think this is kind of another introduction letter, so we'll go ahead and read this. Sunday, April 7th, 1985, to Detective P.L. Ayers. Sorry to bring you in over the weekend, but we've got a situation on our hands that can't wait until Monday. Yesterday, the body of actor Craig Flint was discovered in the parking garage of the apartment building where he lived. Your partner, Sam Reed, has already investigated the crime scene. He has reported that there's reason to believe this could be the handiwork of the serial killer known as in the press as the Miami Madman. On top of that, news came in yesterday afternoon that another possible victim of the Miami Madman was found. Also, there's two victims? A stuntman named Jerry Michaels. What's especially suspicious about this is that Michaels was a stunt double for Craig Flint. Ooh, was this an accident? Or, I mean, the wrong target? It was intended for Craig. If that wasn't enough, Reed has just brought to our attention a third death that could also be related. Further details within case files. We provided information from each of these cases in case they are connected, but for now you should focus on finding Craig Flint's murderer. If he was killed by the Miami Madman, this could be a valuable opportunity to catch him. I know that you're all too familiar with this reprehensible individual and the embarrassment their continuing assault has brought upon me personally and this department. Annoyingly, the press have already gotten wind that this might be the work of the Miami Madman, which is just another headache for me, as if the mayor breathing down my neck wasn't bad enough. Thankfully for you, you won't have to deal with them. Now, I've got to bring something to your attention. A ludicrous claim has been circulating in the local media, put forward by the Miami Chronicle. They're suggesting that the Miami Madman is an inside job from someone in our department. The theory is that M carved into victims' bodies could stand for Mitchell, as in yours truly. Ooh, utterly ridiculous. But it does serve to highlight the pressure we're under to solve this case. Time is of the essence, detective. We must bring the perpetrator to justice, whether they are the serial killer or not. You will need to use the Interconnected Law Enforcement Database, ILEDB, during your investigation. You can access it here. Oh, okay, we have a link. I've been told that as part of some hilarious joke by the techies who maintain the database, this month's password is the nickname I inadvertently ended up with last month. Okay, so we're gonna have to figure that out. When you're ready to access the files on the ILEDB, you should examine the file with file name Uniform Oscar 55 Foxtrot oblique 8. Does that mean that UO45FOE? I don't know. When you think you know who killed Craig Flint, head over to cryptickillers.com. Good luck, yours, M. Lombard, Chief of Police, Miami Law Enforcement. Lombard? I thought it was I guess his first name is Mitchell. Yeah, M. Lombard. Okay, I think we should be taking some notes here. I just wanted to jot some stuff really quickly that there's 3 victims. We have Craig, Jerry, the stuntman, and someone we don't know yet. Guess we gotta look at the other documents. And then M. Mitchell Lombard could be a suspect. He is the chief of police. And then we got our website, but we need a password for that. So we have the password, which is the chief's nickname. So we have to figure that out. All right, next document. We have the Miami Chronicle out of hours call log. Switchboard operator Angela Glenn. It's April 6th. Oh, I should be keeping track of the dates, just so I kind of have a rough idea. So we have April 6th. Time is 1:13 a.m., which is pretty early. Caller Keith Manning. Message: I have some juicy gossip for editor Bob regarding Craig Flint and model Daniela Luzzi. I just saw the 2 of them coming out of the Pandora nightclub and have pictures of them driving off in Flint's car. If Bob's interested, I was able to tail them, so I also have some pictures of Luzzi getting out of Flint's vehicle right outside her apartment in the Oceana Tower. He waited in the vehicle while she ran inside to grab a videotape, which she handed to him before he sped off without her. This all happened 10 to 15 minutes ago, just before 1 a.m. No idea what's on that tape, but I'm sure it's something saucy. I still got eyes on Luzzi. I'm gonna say Luzzi. No, Luzzi. Luzzi's funnier. I still got eyes on Luzzi through her apartment window. And tell Bob to call me if he wants the photos. Right? Got some paparazzi here. Okay, so we have Pandora nightclub. We have a Daniela Luzzi, and we have Oceana Tower, and then a videotape. Lastly, 1 a.m. Okay. All right, let's just keep it going. Next is a toxicology report. So let's see who is being tested here. Unless this is Craig, right? Victim. Under illicit drugs, cocaine. All right. Household poisons, pesticides. Whoa. So he was poisoned? Notes: household poisons, zinc phosphide, illicit drugs, cocaine. We have run tests on the bag of gray powder sent for testing. As suspected, it contained narcotics, but we also found that a high percentage of the powder was decidedly potent rat poison. Okay, so maybe he ingested this? Our test showed that the substance contained high levels of lethal chemicals, including but not limited to zinc phosphide, a gray-colored chemical compound often found in rodenticides. It is my expert opinion that anyone who took some of this concoction would have been dead within days, if not hours. If it is of any use, I suspect the rodenticide used was Rest and Squeaks, manufactured by MVAPDS Industries. I make this assumption due to the fact that the product comes in the form of a gray powder, contains zinc phosphide, and is easily obtainable from hardware stores and the like. It could be a similar product, but I believe of all easily available powder-based rodenticides, am I saying that right? Rest and Squeaks has the highest volume of zinc phosphide. Dr. Tim Strong. Okay, we got our possible method. It doesn't sound like it was found inside the victim. It sounds like they had a bag, right? Yeah, the tests are run on the bag of gray powder. I guess we'll see once we reach the autopsy. Next, we have a police report by Simon Kirby. The victim was discovered by the building's superintendent, Carl Stanton, and the victim's friend, James Lowe, shortly before 4 p.m. The victim was found sitting in a shabby old armchair in the living room of his apartment. From how the victim's throat had been cut, oh, okay, so not just the drugs. I think we can safely conclude he was murdered. As a side note, the victim is the spitting image of Craig Flint from the TV show Florida Squad. Ah, this is the stunt double. We'll be sure to pass a copy of this report on to the detectives working on Flint's case. Let me just start taking notes before I forget. So it's very possible that Craig was still killed by the drugs, and then this guy was cut on his throat. Inspecting the unit, we found no signs of a break-in. The front door and the windows showed no signs of damage or tampering. Considering the apartment building and the unit itself requires keys to enter, how the murderer got in remains a mystery. We did see a photo of keys. We interviewed all the other apartment tenants, but nobody saw or heard anything. Considering the murder is believed to have happened very early in the morning, the fact nobody saw anything is to be expected. But the fact that nobody heard anything suggests there wasn't a struggle of any kind. Okay, so no signs of break-in and no struggle. One hypothesis for how the murderer gained entry is that the murderer was known to the victim. Alternatively, since reports indicate the victim was intoxicated at the time, it could be the murderer was able to exploit the victim's impaired judgment somehow, perhaps offering to assist the victim in getting into his apartment, a more likely scenario if the victim did know the murderer. So he was intoxicated. I'm afraid the murderer left very little in the way of clues. Everything in the apartment seemed normal. The only things that seemed out of place were a set of keys we found in the victim's pocket. It looks like a safe deposit box key. And on the same keychain, he's got a Lamborghini key. Is that a real thing? Lamborghini? What people spend their money on is their business. But I guess the car it belongs to is worth at least double the price of his apartment. It just doesn't add up. The guy can't even afford a nice armchair. Figure 1. A trace of the biting on the Lamborghini key has been provided below. Oh, I see. This is the key. Okay. So that might become important. Oh, maybe we have to match it with the photo. Might as well do that right now. It looks like it matches this top one, but definitely not this bottom. But this is for the safe deposit box, right? No, this doesn't look like any of those keys. All right, I'm just going to put that there were keys in the victim's pocket, and then let's move on. So again, I tried to put this in as much of an order as possible. It might kind of still seem like it's all over the place. I have like all these police documents mixed in with testimonies, so we're just going to go through it all. Next, this is from Milton Motel. I haven't seen that name yet. April 6th. Gunther Bugtrot. I have been asked by police to provide a written statement on Mr. Makachev. We haven't heard that name yet either. Mr. Makachev was one of our most loyal customers. He was a businessman who often traveled to Miami for meetings, conferences, etc. He'd been staying with us on his trips for a couple years now. While I didn't know him personally, I'd seen him enough times to make small talk comfortably. For example, I said to him when he checked in, "Isn't it about time you retired?" And he laughed and said, "No, they've got a few years left in me still." So he checked in yesterday afternoon around 5 p.m. Making small talk, he said he was on vacation and that he was going to rent a car and drive down to Key West to do some fishing after catching up with some friends and relatives in the area, which he seemed quite excited about. He left the motel at 6:30, telling me he'd be back late and he was going to see his son, then going to watch the late night show of Pippin 4 at the MTCA. I don't know if I need to know all these details. Later on, sometime past midnight, I was on night duty at the desk when I saw Mr. Makachev return. He was breathing heavily and it looked to me as if he was in pain somehow. But when I asked him if he was all right or if he wanted to get a doctor, he just brushed me off and went off into his room. Later on, he rang room service to ask for a glass of bourbon to be brought up to him, his voice strained. Carl took it up but said there was no response. I called the manager and I told him I was concerned for Mr. Makachev's health. He said he'd look into it. A short while later, the manager came down and told me to call the police. He'd gone into Mr. Makachev's room and found him dead. Oh, so is this the third victim? For now, I'm just going to write third victim, and does it give us a time when he came back? Sometime past midnight. Okay, if I need to know any of these other details, I'll come back to this document. For now, let's just move on. Next, we have another police report, this time from my partner, Sam Reed. We gained permission to search Craig Flint's apartment for clues that might aid the investigation into his murder. Mr. Flint lived in the apartment with his wife, Miranda Wyatt. According to the concierge, she had moved out of the apartment at the end of March. This was corroborated by the fact that we could not find any of Miss Wyatt's possessions in the apartment. Indeed, in places one could tell where we would have been able to find her possessions if we'd searched a couple of weeks ago. For instance, in the bedroom, there was an empty closet that was presumably hers, considering the other closet contained all of Mr. Flint's clothes. Concierge has made us aware that she is still a registered resident at McCrae Bay Towers. And although she handed in her access card a while ago, she has since come back a few times to collect the rest of her smaller belongings. I noticed on a table besides the front door a couple of keys, a boat key, judging by the keychain, and a key for a safe deposit box. See photo labeled keys found at Flint's place. Oh, okay, right. That photo was the keys at Flint's place. I've appealed for a court order to get permission to open that box. It should happen soon. It's often swift on Saturdays. Okay, let me take some more notes. So if they were separated since the end of March, that's fairly recent. I'm wondering if she left because she found out about an affair. Then we have the McCrae Bay Towers, which is where Clint lives. Then we have the boat key and safe deposit box. All right, let's move on. We have another police report by Sergeant Brian Lynch. We were called to the scene shortly after 11:30 p.m. on Friday, April 5th, after Nick Bream, who was serving behind the bar at Zero's Bar that night, called the police. An APB was put out, and as the closest, we responded. Jerry Michaels had been catching up with some friends at Zero's Bar that night. They were playing pool when a stranger approached Mr. Michaels and punched him in the face. While the blow left Michaels reeling, his friends were able to grab the stranger and overpower him before he could get any more blows in. That's when Mr. Bream called the police. According to Mr. Bream, the stranger had been drinking at the bar alone and had gotten up to leave before he noticed Mr. Michaels playing pool with his friends, at which point he went over and attacked him. None of Michael's friends knew who he was, nor did anybody else in the bar. According to Neil Weiss, who was closest to Michaels when the stranger attacked him, the stranger said, "This is for my brother," before attacking. We arrested the mysterious man and took him to Miami Police HQ. He decided to remain silent, not even providing a name. We transferred him into the custody of the station officers, who said they would be keeping him in overnight for questioning. So this happened April 5th, so keeping him overnight. So everything happened like very early morning on the 6th. So is this an alibi for this unknown assailant? Before leaving the scene, we offered to bring in an ambulance for Mr. Michaels, who had been left with a black left eye. However, the bar staff provided him with a bag of ice, and he declined the offer of any further medical attention. Jerry Michaels, we've seen that name before, right? That is the stunt double? Yeah, we have Jerry Michaels is the stunt double. All right, so we have Jerry Michaels assaulted in Zero's Bar Friday, 11:30 p.m. The unknown assailant said, "This is for my brother." My immediate assumption was that this guy was mistaken for Craig. But what could this man's motive be? We still need to get deeper into the story to see what happened. So let's move on. All right, we got a front and backer. This is a police report, again by my partner, Sam Reed. Is it going to be one of those things where it's my own partner? Because so far we have some suspects, a lot of unknown people. I don't know, let's just read on. Crime scene report. The victim was discovered in the driving seat of his car, a red 1985 Lamborghini 913, license number VHF 837. Are these marked on keys? Oh no, but that key is a safe deposit box. We'll still take a note of this. Parked in the underground parking garage of the building where he lives. The body was discovered by a fellow resident of the building, Dr. John Parks, around 6 a.m. this morning, April 6th. So Yeah, everybody was passed away around the same time too, right? Or that same morning. According to Dr. Parks, I came down around 6 a.m. to go to work. I work at Miami's General Hospital, and my shift started at 7 that morning. I was parked in Bay 5, directly opposite the bay Mr. Flint's car was parked in. So this is a report of Craig. So when I got into my car, I had a direct view of his vehicle. In fact, I had parked the night before just as Craig was about to head off somewhere. We said hello just before he set off, 9 p.m. All right, I should just start taking notes. I wonder if the license plate is going to play a factor when I access this database. All right, so 9 p.m. according to my dashboard clock. Anyway, that morning I saw him in his car, eyes open, slumped back. I got out to take a closer look. He was quite clearly dead. I tried calling the police on my car phone, but it doesn't get any signal. Oh yeah, this is in the 80s. And it doesn't get any signal in the garage, so I went upstairs to the lobby and found the concierge who made the call. Is it concierge or concierge? I'm gonna say concierge. When we inspected the car, we found it locked and we were forced to smash one of the windows in order to get to the body. We analyzed the locks of the car, but even under detailed inspection, we were unable to find any signs that the lock had been picked or tampered with in any way. What was odd was that the car keys were still in the ignition, yet he'd been killed and the doors were locked. Victim appears to have been strangled. There's also some blood and on the chest area of his shirt. I'm sure this is all going to show up in the coroner's report, but let's take a note anyways. There's nothing particularly unusual about the vehicle. It was heavily tinted side and back windows, typically celebrity style so that you can't see in. It's a little odd that Mr. Flint doesn't have a chauffeur given his fame and fortune and given all the extra legroom that the long wheelbase offers for passengers to ride in comfort. As a test, I asked Officer Matthews to sit in the footwell behind the driver's seat and close the door. He wasn't visible from outside of the vehicle, nor was he easy to spot from either of the two front seats, especially under the cover of darkness, unless you specifically knew to look for him, of course. Also, they think someone was in there while he drove in and then just escaped the car. But how would they have locked the car? I guess you can lock it and then get out, right? I don't know. In 1985, how were car locks made? Also found in the car was a VHS of the film Game of the Pigs and the victim's apartment complex key card on the passenger seat. Let's take some notes before I forget. First, no signs of break-in. I never heard the term footwell. I'm guessing that's the space where you put your feet, right, inside of a car. Well, they said it's so spacious that someone can hide in there. And then there's this VHS tape, Game of the Pigs. We heard another statement involving a videotape, so this could be the same one. It was in the Miami Chronicle document. He waited in the vehicle while she ran inside to grab a videotape. So I guess the tape was still in the car. All right, let's go to second page. While going over the car's interior with the proverbial fine-tooth comb, we found that the ball on top of the shift stick could be opened to reveal a small secret compartment, just as Miss Daniela Luzzi had claimed. When did she claim that? Though counter to her claims, after following the specific method of opening it, we found that the compartment was completely empty. I'm guessing she has a statement too? We dusted the car's interior as well as the exterior handles for prints. As expected, we mostly found the victim's prints, though we did find a set that didn't match the victim's prints on the rear passenger door handle. Rear passenger? I thought they were hiding in the front passenger foot area. Personal effects of the victim: wallet, including credit cards, driver's license, video store membership card, and $50 in cash and 73 cents in change. Key fob, Polaroid attached. Yep, we saw that. All right, not much more info here. The only thing is that they found the prints in the rear passenger handle. All right, let's move on. Next is another police report by James Lowe. Haven't seen that name yet. We were at Zero's bar last night. We had agreed to meet up for drinks. Oh, I see. Is this just not a police officer? Dean, Al, Jerry, and I, we all met at the bar at 8:30 p.m. and chatted for a while over beers. I remember Jerry saying something about Lowe. Oh, how he had been at Craig Flint's place because Craig's dad was coming around to give him some things, but Craig hadn't wanted to talk to him, so he got Jerry to do it instead. The perks of having a stunt double, I guess. Jerry also showed us a key he had taken for Craig's Lamborghini. Craig had asked him to take the key for some reason. I don't think Craig had fully explained the reason for asking Jerry to take it. We joked about sneaking into Craig's apartment building and taking the car for a joyride, but none of us were being serious about it. After a while, one of the pool tables became free, so we played a few games. It was a while we were playing pool that Jerry was attacked by that crazy guy. Dean and I had to pull that wacko off of Jerry. Not that Jerry can't stand up for himself, but this guy caught him off guard. It's good we pulled him away when he did, else he could have done some serious damage. Thankfully, the only damage Jerry received was a black eye, so he didn't need to go to the hospital or anything. The bar owner gave us a free round of drinks to make up for what happened. Not that we blamed him or anything, we just weren't going to say no to free drinks. We ended up staying until last call at 1 a.m. and after we'd had our last round, we went our separate ways. Jerry's place was in the same direction as mine, so we walked together for a while. However, we must have not been paying attention to where we were going because we took an unintentional detour and passed Craig's apartment building. We crossed the street, almost getting hit by a cab in the process, and, in our drunken state, decided nothing terrible would happen if we sneaked inside and took his car for a spin. The problem was we couldn't think of a way to actually get in, so we called it off. We walked a bit further and said goodbye at the corner of Southwest 15th and 2nd Avenue. Wondering if that's an important detail? He went north up Southwest 2nd Avenue while I continued northwest to Southwest 3rd. I remember just before we parted, he asked, "Oh, you've got Craig's key, haven't you?" And after letting me panic for a couple of seconds, he took it out of his pocket and laughed at me. Anyway, we had agreed to see the Marlins game that was on today, April 6th, and that he'd drive. The game started at 4:05, so he said he'd get to my apartment at 3:15 to get to the stadium. Well, I waited on the sidewalk outside for 15 minutes, waiting for him before going inside to call him. I got no answer. I reckoned he was driving around and probably got held up in traffic. But after another couple of minutes went by, I started worrying, so I drove to his place. The super let me in, and that's when we found him. Okay, a lot of notes to take here. Okay, this is what I got so far. There's probably some more details in there. For example, this whole plan for the baseball game. I'm not sure if that's important, but they met at 8:30, stayed until 1 a.m. Sometime in between there was that altercation. James walks home with Jerry, and this shows some directions that they took and that Jerry had the keys to Craig's Lambo. They wanted to go for a joyride as a joke, but then maybe considered it, but then they realized they couldn't access it. I'm guessing they only had the car keys and not the keys to his place. Okay, next. All right, so now we have some autopsy reports. So this is Jerry's autopsy. He was found in his own apartment, sitting in his chair with his throat cut. So there was a toxicology on Jerry, and there's some alcohol. That makes sense because they just came back from the bar. Throat has been slit, severing the arteries to the brain. There's also a capital M carved into the left arm. I guess that's why they think these are all linked. Marks bruising to the right shoulder. Don't know what that's from. And then the left eye was from the incident at the bar. I estimate the time of death to be between 1:30 a.m. and 2:30 a.m. this morning. So if they left the bar at 1 a.m. and we'll have to see, I don't know how far his place is. Cause of death, loss of oxygen to the brain due to critical arteries being severed. Manner of death, the position of marks on the shoulder suggests the murderer may have grabbed the victim from behind before cutting their throat. The M on the left arm did not contribute to the victim's death, though the cuts are half an inch deep. I believe the victim was already dead when those cuts were made. All right, let's just keep going. And now our main victim, Craig Dexter Flint. So I think we saw his toxicology, and there was drugs, the bag of gray substance, cocaine mixed with rat poison. The victim has a pressure mark measuring 0.15 inches wide running across the front of the neck, likely to have been strangled from behind with a thin piece of wire. There's also a capital initial M carved in the front of the chest. Oh, that was the blood on the chest. Based on my estimation, the time of death falls between 1 a.m. and 2 a.m. this morning. The cause of death was determined to be a lack of oxygen to the brain due to strangulation. Where does the cocaine come into play then? Or am I thinking of the other victim? The victim was garroted with an unidentified weapon. The initial M carving did not contribute to the cause of death. The cuts are approximately 0.3 inches deep, which only caused light bleeding. The carving fits in with previous M killings, namely, as with all the others, the M is on the front of the chest, near to the top of the sternum. Oh, that's different from the arm. The proportions of the M are identical to the previous murders, with the length and angle of the lines being the same, as well as the use of serifs, which is an unusual feature. See figure 1 Polaroid of M signature. Oh, I wonder if the M is the same. I'll go back to the other one. Other notes. During the toxicology examination, significant illegal recreational substances were detected in the blood and urine. No other hazardous substances were found. The absence of pressure marks on the body suggests that the body was not moved after death. Okay, I just want to compare this M with the previous one. Yeah, so this M looked different. It's like straight lines, and it's not in the chest. So I'm just going to take a note. So the M markings are different font and location, but for Craig's, it fits the previous murders. Lastly, we have Terrence Oscar Makachev. Still don't know if I'm saying that right. He was 64 years old. Okay, so we also have drugs. So yeah, this might be the cocaine. No external injuries. I estimate the time of death to be between 1:45 a.m. and 2:45 a.m. Cause of death, cardiac arrest. The heart and lungs showed intense signs of damage. Due to the lack of external injuries, this would hint that poison found its way into the bloodstream. Police say stimulant drugs were found in the subject's motel room. I'm informed they have sent the drugs for analysis. I suspect it was something more than just drugs. This doesn't look like any overdose I've ever seen. Alright, so we already know what was in there. I'm just gonna write rat poison, and there was no markings on this one, so I don't know why they think it's connected. Okay, we'll see if we have to come back to these reports, but let's just move on. Next, we have another statement. Oh, so okay, this is Daniela Luzzi's statement. It was written on April 6th. I was at the Pandora nightclub last night with some of my friends. It was while I was dancing that Craig came up to me. We hit it off and had a couple of drinks together afterward. I was about to call for a cab when the evening ended, but Craig offered to drive me home. He had a nice car, and he's Craig Flint, so I took him up on the offer. Lamborghini 913. You could tell the parking valet savored the few seconds that he got driving it. Craig was eager to show off his new high-tech feature he'd had installed that week, where you don't need to stick your key in the door to unlock it. Ooh, you can zap it open with radio waves, though you still need to put it in the ignition to start the car. That would explain the no prints, although there was in the back passenger seat. I asked him what he was going to do with the old key. Another spare, he said. A spare for if I lose the spare. Then the conversation got a little weird because he started talking about how one key looked bigger than the other, even though it wasn't. I think that's an important clue. I'm just going to write that. I can't say I'm surprised that Craig's a strange character. He'd been doing drugs the whole evening, so much so he finished a whole bag of white powder. But I doubt that'll come as a surprise to you. Everyone saw the pictures of him and that makeup artist, Maria Sanchez, doing it together a couple of weekends ago. And we've all heard the story about Adrian Shepard, the guy who's now serving a 10-year sentence because Flint made him take the heat for possession of illegal substances. Okay, so this might be the brother, right? The guy who punched his stunt double and said, "That's for my brother." Perhaps Craig is just suffering internally and he uses it as an escape. Maybe he was hit hard by his breakup with Miranda Wyatt. That sounded like a messy breakup. He was claiming in the press that he had been obsessively controlling her like a slave. I thought it was an affair. Maybe there still could be. I should add that he's a generous man. He was very happy to share with me, saying things like, "I get mine at a discount, part of a nice little deal I've got going," but I never partook. At a red light, he told me to twist the top off the ball of his stick shift anti-clockwise until it didn't turn anymore, then push down while turning it clockwise. Okay, so here's the stick shift thing. I followed his instructions, and the top of the ball popped off to reveal a secret compartment containing an unopened bag of powder. Again, he offered me some, claiming that it was the best thing that money could buy. He said it was an upgraded formula that had only just been delivered to him. But once again, I refused. I've heard what drugs do to your nose and brain, and it shows too. Throughout the drive, he was paranoid as hell, always looking around for a taxi he said might be following him. I couldn't see anything, but he was insistent he had been followed by a taxi on the drive to Pandora from his apartment and was sure it was going to follow him again. Anyway, he left the bag in the secret compartment and I reset the ball lid. But it was empty, right? So somebody took it. During the drive back to my place, he asked about my career, and I told him about the film I had made with Claude Malone that played at SMFF the year before. I'm not even going to try to read that. When we got to my place, I lent him the VHS and told him to watch it. He said he wasn't interested, but I told him he'd have to see me again to return it, and he got the gist. Sure, he might be a little loopy, but he's also Craig Flint, so I couldn't resist. Anyway, he drove off, and that was the last I heard from him. Alright, so let's take some last notes here. Am I going to need to translate this? Because we have another title on another document, right? Yeah, here it says Game of the Pigs, so I wonder if that's what it means. Let me see really quick. Pigs Game is what Google Translate says, but yeah, Game of the Pigs. Alright, let's move on. Next, we have a transcript of interview between a detective and a respondent. For the record, it's 2 p.m. on April 6, 1985. I'm here with Mr. Eric Common. Sir, could you give me a run-through of yesterday? Well, it was our last day for season 5, like any other shoot day, really. Sam and I got to the studio at 7:30 a.m. sharp. We usually planned a day's schedule with director Sean Clark, but we all met in the production office to make sure everything was clear for the day. Okay, so this is a completely different side of the information here. Now we're getting into this television program. I'm wondering if I should read this now or if I should get more info on the TV show. It's okay, we'll just read this and then hopefully it provides some context for the later documents. And everyone showed up on time? Absolutely. Our cast and crew are a reliable group. No one's ever late. We started shooting at 9 a.m. It sounds like you had a lot to do. Any issues apart from the usual stress? It was a tense day, I'll give you that, but our cast and crew are professionals. They handled the pressure well. Sure, there were flubs here and there, nothing too major. Then there's Craig and Maria. Yes, we've heard they had issues. What can you tell us about that? Is this the same Maria we heard about? Oh, they found the photo of them doing drugs, right? Well, Maria seemed to think she was in a relationship with him, but he just seemed to think she was just a bit of fun on the side. Following the media coverage of their fling, Craig had insisted on her firing. The whole thing was creating too much tension in the studio, so yesterday I told Maria it would be her last day working with us. Ooh, that is a very strong motive. Understandable. Were there any other incidents during the shoot? No, everything usually runs quite smoothly. Just about the worst thing that has happened to us this season is a hiccup in the wardrobe department where a pair of rare dolphin earrings went missing. Okay, we saw that photo. We didn't have duplicates, which is a big problem for continuity. My guess is that it was that guy in the wardrobe department that took them because he knew they were expensive. Anyway, I digress. What's his name? Leo Burns. The moment Strauss bought CRM Studios, he was adamant we had to give Burns a job in the wardrobe department. No idea why. I must admit, Strauss has been no bother aside from that. Okay, we got some names we gotta keep track of here. Interesting. When did your day end? We finished shooting around 6 p.m., so the cast went home around then. The management team had another production meeting and some post-production work on a previous episode. We got home around 11:30 p.m. Okay, thank you, Mr. Common. That's all for now. All right, so we have Maria, who was fired because of Craig and the possible motive for revenge. Then we have the dolphin earrings that were stolen, and we have Leo Burns of the wardrobe department. Aside from that, not sure what else sticks out here. We'll see if we have to come back, but let's just move on. Next, we have this written statement on the back of Jake's Diner menu. There's an address here. I'm not sure if that is going to come into play. Also the menu items too. I don't know. Let's just read this. My name is Pete Wurst, and I work at Jake's 24-hour diner. I was working behind the counter on the night shift at the diner last night. It's a small place, so we don't have a separate kitchen. Everything is cooked on stoves behind the counter. I was frying up some eggs for a customer sitting at the booth by the window. As I served them their food, I saw Craig Flint walk past. I couldn't believe it. I'm a huge Florida Squad fan, so I immediately recognized him. I almost walked out to go and meet him, but the customer asked for a refill of their coffee. Once I had gotten the coffee pot and refilled their coffee cup, I poked my head out to see if Craig was still nearby. He was going into an apartment building across the street. Oh, so we have the address of this diner. So now we have a possible address of this apartment he went in. I couldn't believe it. Craig Flint himself lived across the street from where I worked. Oh, it's his apartment. Okay. I almost ran across the street to meet him, but I thought better of it. Considering I am the only staff member there during the night shift, I couldn't leave the diner. That would be the perfect opportunity for someone to come in and swipe all the money from the cash register, and Jake would have killed me if that had happened. From the way he was walking, I'd say he had at least a couple of beverages. I'm not sure what time it was. My shift runs from 10 p.m. to 6 a.m., and it was about halfway through the shift. Great. Okay, we'll figure that out. I just remembered a CRM Studios truck pulled up outside Craig's apartment block about an hour before he arrived home. I thought it was a little odd because the driver just sat in the truck with the engine running for the full hour. Eventually, the guy jumped out with one of those suit bags. I guess it was someone dropping off a costume or something. Seemed like a strange hour of the day to be dropping it off, but I guess it must have been a last-minute change for an early morning shoot or something. I remember thinking it must be for Craig because CRM makes Florida Squad. Their logo is always at the end of the credits. Okay, this actually seemed pretty useful. So there are some maps in the documents. Of course, I know because I had to scan everything, but we will get to it eventually. Okay, let's see. 10 p.m. and 6 a.m. What is between that? Is that an 8-hour shift? It is. So it would be around 2 a.m. And then around 1 a.m., the CRM truck was in front of the apartment dropping off something, a costume or whatever it was. All right, let's move on. So I believe this is the last statement I have. I'm not too sure if I'll find something else in the documents, but let's go through this. We have Larry Cooper. I parked Craig Flint's car last night. He comes to the Pandora nightclub often. Also, this is the valet. He has a very cool car. It's a privilege to drive it, even if it's just around a parking lot at single-digit miles per hour. I parked it on the second floor that evening around 9 to 9:15 and continued with my work. It was a pretty busy night. I mean, no busier than usual for a Friday night, but then Friday nights are the busiest nights. I was parking cars while Lenny manned the booth at the gate. This handwriting is so hard to read. Sometime later, about half an hour later, I'd reckon, I had just parked a car on the second floor and was returning to the booth when I heard a car door shut. It's pretty quiet in that garage and echoey too, so it's hard to miss sounds like that. So what does that mean? He heard a car door shut. Is no one else supposed to be in the garage? Immediately, I thought it was odd because only I should have been in the garage. Okay, there you go. I knew it couldn't have been Lenny since I just seen him in the booth. I called out, "Who's there?" but didn't get an answer. I went over to where I thought I had heard that noise and looked around some of the cars. I checked to see if someone had broken in or something, but I couldn't see anything, helped by the fact that the place is poorly lit. Then Lenny started squawking on my walkie-talkie, telling me we had customers and that I needed to return to the booth pronto. I tried to look in more of the second floor cars throughout the evening, but we were so busy I barely got a free minute. Lenny said he hadn't seen anything and told me I was probably imagining things, and while I was sure I had heard something, I decided it was probably nothing. After all, it's no skin off our backs if the cars are broken into. The ticket plainly states we are not responsible if anything like that happens. Okay, so my only thought is that maybe somebody broke into the car and stole the baggie from the secret compartment. It would have to be someone who knew about that too. Obviously someone who had access to the car. All right, so we have the valet at Pandora's. Let's see, does he say when he heard the noise? Sometime later, about half an hour later. So let's just say 9:45. All right, so I think that's the only piece of information I need. Someone at 9:45 went into his car. I think that's what they're trying to say. All right, let's move on. Okay, so let's just back out for a minute. So we went through all of these documents. There's two more right here. Then we have the map here and some other letters, and then some articles in newspapers. So I think I'll wrap up these two letters. Then we'll just kind of go through the newspapers and articles, and then we'll go through these last documents here. So there's two documents from this Rain psychiatry practice. This is the first one. We have patient Bart Shepard, and this is on a session on April 3rd, so a couple days before the incidents. The patient is having difficulty dealing with his anger management, which interferes with their everyday life and ability to engage in normal day-to-day behavior. Have we seen a Bart Shepherd? He says he has had this problem all his life, but that episodes of uncontrollable anger were much more infrequent in the past. That is, the problem has been getting worse as of late. From our conversations, it is clear he harbors a great deal of resentment towards the actor Craig Flint due to the belief that Flint used Adrian, the patient's brother, as a fall guy to take the blame for the possession of illegal substances. So this is the guy who punched Jerry at the bar. So he definitely mistaken the Jerry for Craig. Flint is a free man, while the patient's brother now serves a lengthy prison sentence. It is probable that the outrage felt over this perceived injustice is responsible for this increase in anger episodes, though I doubt that is the sole reason. The patient mentions that they often wake up without memory of the previous evening's events, making me suspect that drugs are also involved. I presented some anger management techniques to the patient, who was reluctant to engage and dismissed the exercises. In an outburst, he said the best way to deal with his emotions was to get revenge on Mr. Flint. When I asked him what he meant by that, he did not specify, simply stating that he'd make him pay if I ever saw him, picking up the implication that the patient intends to harm Mr. Flint or even kill him. I tried to dissuade him from revenge, to which he unconvincingly verbally agreed. Okay, we already know what he ended up doing. So the next RAIN psychiatry practice document is for Craig. So he was a patient. This is on April 1st. Mr. Flint scheduled a session with me asking for help with symptoms of obsessive compulsive disorder. Okay, so this is what the ex-wife, I don't know if they're divorced, but they separated. From what he has told me, these symptoms have only started within the last year. When pressed on the matter, Mr. Flint has admitted to using Schedule II drugs, illegal substances, although he was hesitant to admit it, perhaps under the belief that I would pass the information along to the police. However, I believe his answer to using it, occasionally if I'm at a party and it's there, is not true. Mr. Flint's answer conflicts with his behavior and mannerisms, which align with those of an addict. While the link between drug use and the development of OCD characteristics in people who hadn't previously shown any is still being studied, it is an accepted hypothesis. I believe it explains why Mr. Flint, who is in his 30s, has only begun to show OCD tendencies recently. Thus, we might succeed in tackling his OCD if we first tackle his addiction. However, when I raised the idea, Mr. Flint dismissed it, either unwilling or unable to accept that he has an addiction. While I tried to help him see the truth of his addiction, I believe it will take some time before he'll be ready to admit the fact. Of course, this is not the only possibility. It may be that he did have some minor symptoms that the drug use exacerbated, so it would be good to investigate further at our next session. There may also be genetic factors, so finding out more about his family history would be helpful. In the meantime, I've been working on ways to help Mr. Flint with his compulsions. Mr. Flint was hoping that I'd give him some immediate relief medication to make his OCD go away, and I had explained to him that's not how it works. Medication may prove helpful in the future, but I feel it is best to try and work through non-medicated approaches first. I asked Mr. Flint for examples of his OCD, and he said that he feels a strong urge to repeatedly check and compare things, adding that he would often become fixated or on irrational problems. For example, he mentioned keeping 2 spare car keys on a table near his apartment door and described a compulsion where he felt the need to work out which key was bigger, despite the keys being identical. Oh, so one's not bigger. I suggested that, where possible, he removes the objects triggering his compulsions and challenged him to give one of the spare keys to a friend or family member he trusts. Oh, okay, so that's why he gave it to his stunt double, thus removing his ability to obsess over it. He agreed to act on that suggestion as soon as possible. I suggested that exposure and response prevention (ERP) therapy might be necessary where it is impossible to remove other objects that may be triggering the OCD. Okay, let's take some notes. So not sure what else to note here, other than explains why he gave the key to Jerry. And let's just move on then. So like I mentioned, we went through all these documents on the right here, which are mostly statements and police documents. And now we'll go through these newspapers and articles. Okay, so first we have Friday, March 22nd. So about a week or so. Couple weeks before. Mayor Pitcher promises action on Miami madman. I'm going to try to go through this as quick as possible. So they're hopeful that the monthly slaughter of a Miamian is over as recent nearly 2 full months of inaction from the Miami Madman after 7 consecutive months of bloodshed. They're frantically searching for the killer. Only the link is that all of them had the M carved into the body. He announced at a press conference that he'll be making more money available to the police to aid in catching. I will not stand idly by while someone strikes fear into the hearts of everyday Miami citizens. I'll take whatever action is necessary. This includes stepping up the number of police officers in the streets. He also said we are doing everything we can to bring the killer to justice. The best thing public is to not panic. He later went on to criticize the Miami Chronicle for revealing details of modus operandi of the Miami Madman, namely that he signs his victims' bodies by carving the letter M into their bodies. He said the Miami Chronicle has been incredibly reckless by putting this information into the public domain, opening the door for possibility of copycat killers. Yes, that's one thing we noticed already. By sensationalizing these killings, it just plays into the hands of the killer. The paper has also come under fire for continuing to print the opinions of disgraced and discredited former MPD criminologist Arthur Jacks. Okay, writing an editorial. It's everyday members of the public who are falling victim to this raving lunatic with lust to kill, so public has a right to know what's going on. I suggest Police Chief Lombard gets off his behind and brings the killer to justice rather than going after us for simply reporting the facts of the case. Oh, that's right. I forgot one thing that we're trying to do is figuring out the nickname of the police chief. Don't tell me I skipped it. I'm going to have to look through this again. To date, the individuals targeted by the Miami Madman are Kenneth Murray Mathers, 58, Ruth Middleton Arnett, 42. Okay, I don't know if any of these names look familiar. It's just, I don't know. We'll have to come back to this if we don't find the nickname anywhere. So this is the backside of that clipping. Matrimonial meltdown from breakup to makeup. I apologize if this text is really small and kind of blurry. Also, this is Maria Sanchez. I'm guessing that the co-star of Craig, and they were found with a photo of them using drugs. And this is Miranda Wyatt, the wife. Maybe I'll just read this one. Miami's mesmerizing man, Craig Flint, has been caught in a real-life drama that eclipses any he's portrayed on the screen. Known for his on-camera charm, Flint is now facing allegations of marital betrayal, having reportedly engaged in an affair with Maria Sanchez. Oh, she's the makeup artist on the set, so not co-star. Miranda Wyatt, Flint's wife, spoke candidly about the end of her relationship, revealing a darker side of her husband that the public had never seen. I can't say I'm surprised, she said. He's a controlling, manipulative man who treated me like a slave. I hated him and I want him dead for what he's done to me. Oh, that's right. She would be a suspect, wouldn't she? He will just repeat this vicious cycle with anyone he gets involved with. He's a nasty piece of work. The couple had been tabloid darlings since the whirlwind romance and glamorous wedding, but insiders have long reported trouble in paradise. Those close to the couple say Wyatt had increasingly been seen without her wedding ring on, and friends mentioned that Flint's controlling behavior had intensified over the past year. Maria Sanchez, Flint's reported new fling and a rising talent in the movie makeup circuits, couldn't see things more differently. Craig would never mistreat me, she stated, dismissing allegations that the relationship began before Flint and Wyatt had separated. It remains to be seen whether Flint's professional life will take a hit due to this scandal. As for Maria Sanchez, her career has ironically gotten a makeover as the affair makes headlines. Okay, and at the bottom we have Zero's Bar, where the stuntman got punched. I'm not sure if there's any clues in this photo. Miami Chronicle raffle winner revealed. See page 13. I don't think we have that page. Just a few notes to jot down. All right, so next we have another newspaper. Television star Craig Flint found dead. And here's a picture of Craig. I'll try to go through this quickly as well. So Craig Flint, star of the hit show Florida Squad, found dead in parking garage of his apartment yesterday. Reports yet to be released, but they have reason to suspect his death would have been at the hands of the madman. Began his career as modeling under Goodwin Management, commercials, retail brands. Despite the success, he wanted to move on to acting. He landed the part of Jack Hunter on the show Florida Squad, wrapped up its 5th season. The Miami Chronicle approached Common Brown Productions and CRM Studios. When asked if Flynn's death would mark the end of the show, Common said, "It's hard to say anything concrete at this moment. We will not be recasting the role of Jack Hunter. He's irreplaceable. We still intend to go ahead with the airing of the remaining episodes." Meanwhile, Mayor Charles Pitcher paid tribute to Flynn in a statement put out by the mayor's office yesterday. As character Jack Hunter, Craig Flint brought joy to millions of people around the world, and the popularity and success of Florida Squad, made entirely on the streets of Miami and the studios in Miami, helped prove that American cities other than Los Angeles, Hollywood, can make great television. Okay, then it just talks about how the law enforcement headquarters was in the show, so it's like a tourist attraction. There's this petition to name a street. All right, so I'm not sure what else is there. So this is the backside of this clipping. Flint's stunt double also found murdered. So news came in late yesterday, and Miami police that Jerry Michaels, stunt double, they're still investigating any link between the deaths. Jerry was hardworking, he was professional, he was brilliant in what he did, but most of all, he was the cheeriest guy I've ever met. He dedicated his graft, his devotion, going above and beyond, and of course he looks just like Craig. Major smuggling aircraft seized. More information is being revealed about the aircraft that was seized yesterday evening. Narcotic Enforcement Agencies revealed that it left American airspace shortly after midnight. Okay, there's a sting operation and arrested the pilot, who is now being held in custody. The aircraft contained a large flight case full of narcotics with a current street value of $100 per gram. This was a significant bust, approximately $1 million worth. Plane is believed to have been the main means of transportation in the key drug smuggling route between America and the Bahamas. All right, so don't know what else is important here. Pippin for Revenge of Pippin. All right, this is a cinema. Not sure if this will be important also with the times here. All right, not sure how any of that helped. Let's just move on for now. I really hope I didn't miss something important. You still need to figure out the Chief's nickname. Okay, so this is Entertainment Insider Monthly. U-turn on Florida Squad. Oh, this is a guy with a tattoo on his chest, just like the film we saw, the strip of film. Matt Lane as Michael Flanagan. Oh, recast? Wait, this is July 1984, so it happened in April of 1985. The producers of Florida Squad are scrambling to rewrite scripts after lead actor Craig Flint declared his support for co-star Matt Lane, saying that he would not return to the show unless Lane also returned. Telling The Mix yesterday, I had no hand in trying to push Matt out. He's a good friend and fine actor. He's a key part of the show's success, and I couldn't imagine doing the show without him. I hope Eric and Sam come to their senses. This news comes after reports emerged from Common Brown Productions that they were considering writing out Lane's character, Michael Flanagan, at the end of season 5. While there hasn't been any official word from the production office regarding Lane's dismissal, it is reported that the idea to write out Lane had been floated past Flint during a private meeting between him and Common and Brown, the show's creators and showrunners. Reportedly, he did not raise any objection back then. As such, proposed storylines for season 5, currently in the pre-production stages, have had to be drastically altered. It is believed a season-long story arc had been planned, which would have led to the writing off of Michael Flanagan. The show's writers are now scrambling to develop a new story arc, considering that production of season 5 is due to start in early August. I wonder what this is all about. And this is the backside of that. New art installation coming to Miami Museum of Modern Art. By arts correspondent Olivia Morris, the Miami Museum of Modern Art is to open a new installation of artwork by Oblique, one of the leading figures of the avant-garde typewriter art scene. Oblique, real name Chris Hepworth, is known for his artwork made using characters typed on a typewriter, with the distinct uses of obliques or forward slashes in his art, hence his choice of nom de plume. I wonder if that's going to be important as well. Let's just keep moving. All right, so we have another page from the Entertainment Insider Monthly, and we can see season 5 Florida Squad with Clint and Matt. CRM Studios finds a new owner. Suspect, see file WT45SF-2, Sam Reed. Okay, so this is a hint from my partner. And we have Arnold M. Strauss Jr. So following Edward Engelbert's announcement earlier in the year that he was planning on putting CRM Studios up for sale, speculation has swirled in Hollywood as to who will end up with the studio. Today's speculation comes from an end as businessman Arnold M. Strauss Jr. emerged as a new owner, parting with $200 million for it. The full terms of the deal haven't yet been made public, but it's speculated that Engelbert intends to hold onto a CRM back catalog, including all television and home rights, video rights. Said catalog currently features over 1,000 feature films and over 5,000 episodes of television, all dating back to studio's founding in 1915. However, this does not include the rights to ongoing film franchises such as Humphrey Pumpkin and Universe Man, whose future is still at CRM. Okay, why is this guy a suspect? His biggest asset besides its back catalog is its California-based Fir Tree Studio lot, which spans 75. Why is this relevant? He had led speculation that the buyers here might not be another film studio. Indeed, it seemed that Mr. Strauss has his sights set on becoming a media mogul akin to Mr. Engelbert, and his next step in Mr. Strauss expanding his business empire by breaking into the film industry. Currently, Mr. Strauss is best known as the owner of the Black Bull chain of restaurants. Okay, why is he a suspect? Why is Strauss a suspect? All right, we have this cool image, Florida Squad. Imminent shakeup on the Florida Squad. So this is still in June of 1984. Our sources indicate that the character dynamics of the crime-fighting Florida Squad will be overhauled during the show's 5th season. The Hollywood Scoop has heard that Common Brown creators and showrunners will be diminishing the role of Michael Flanagan, played by Matt Lane, in favor of heightening the part of Jack Hunter. Furthermore, auditions are believed to have taken place for a new female member of the Florida Squad. According to insiders, this character was an idea of Flint's, who suggested the show could do with more sex appeal. Michael Flanagan will slowly be phased out during season 5. The new character takes on more of his duties. We approached members of Florida Squad production for comment, but they would not make an official statement. Okay. So it was Flint's idea to replace Matt Lane with this female character, which gives Matt a very clear motive for revenge. Then we have another page from Glamorous Magazine, April 1984. Craig Flint interview. Florida Squad continues to be a rating smash, and with the season 4 finale appearing on TV screens next month, we catch up with its star, Craig Flint. What do you think the cornerstone of the show's continuing success? It's because we put so much hard work into it. Eric and Sam are geniuses. The show is their baby. They're very protective of it. They're a great team. They won't let a script reach us until it's high quality. I'm just going to kind of skim over things. You guys can pause if you want to read. This line's funny. All the men watching want to be me. All the women watching want to be with me. Maybe I should read this one that's quoted. I met a casting agent at a party who thought I'd be great on screen. She got me an audition for Florida Squad, and the rest, as they say, is history. I don't know what I'm looking for here, though. Oh, here we go. Are you and Matt Lane as close as Jack Hunter and Michael Flanagan? Not really. We get along perfectly fine on set, but never see each other outside of work. We've never hung out or anything. Sorry to spoil the magic, though I guess the fact people believe I, as Jack Hunter, am friends with him is a testament to my acting skills. There might be rumors that this is last season. As far as I'm aware, there isn't any truth to that. That being said, I don't think the show would suffer too much if he left. Maybe a change would be good. We've had 3 good years, but you can't keep doing the same things over and over. Okay, so I mean, he was okay with it. We already know it's his idea. Any big changes coming up? Possibly. I'm not at liberty to divulge. Some may or may not be happening. You'll have to tune in to find out. Okay, this was the quote we read. So he's used to modeling in his underwear. He's fine with showing off his body. Oh, here we go. Matt, on the other hand, hates doing it because they have to apply all this makeup to his chest to hide this big, stupid tattoo he's got of a blue squid. Okay, so we know who that guy is now. Maybe that's the piece of information I needed from all this. Are you sure you want to be so blunt? He might read this interview. Maybe, but I laughed in his face the first time I saw it and every time since. Returning to your career, modeling requires a different skill from acting. I'll admit being nervous going in. Once I learned how easy the whole thing was, nerves went away. Do what the script says and do what the director tells you to do. The interview continues on the back. Do you find it playing easy, Jack Hunter easy? Comes naturally. What will you do when the show ends? He says he'll have loyal fans. Does that loyal army include your family? No, not at all. Okay, so he's not close with his family either. My mom died when I was very young, and I'm not close with my dad at all. I moved out as soon as I was old enough and went to live in Miami. He was a very commanding guy who wanted to control my life. You don't get to decide your family, but you can decide how much you see them. And with your father, that's never, not even Thanksgiving. He tried to ride my coattails to fame. It's disgusting. He loves doing these interviews because he loves being the center of attention. After my libel case with the Miami Chronicle, I think they're beginning to grow wary of his bull S. Nothing he told them was true. He always claimed he was responsible for pushing you towards acting. Well, I guess it's sort of true in a way because he did have this obsession with being famous and having everyone's attention. The only one who could take credit for my success is me. I became successful through my own hard work. I don't owe anybody anything. Big part of my success was from my good looks, and those certainly didn't come from him. You look at photos of my grandfather and my mom's side, and it looks like it wasn't for the fact those photos are in black and white. Oh, wait. So photos of my grandfather on my mom's side. That might be the old photo that we saw in the very beginning. It's like if it wasn't for the fact those photos are in black and white and he's always wearing his Sunday best, you'd think it was me. He probably could have been a movie star, but I guess he was happy working on the docks. Which, is fair enough. This isn't the life for everyone. Heck, I look more like my stunt double than I do my dad. But then I do look a hell of a lot like my stunt double. No, make that he looks a lot like me. What about the rest of your family? I have a couple of half-siblings from my father's many second wives, but I don't really know them. We communicate entirely through Christmas cards. No cousins, uncles, or aunts that I know of. Actually, my family history is the thing I want to explore a bit more, find out where I came from, all that jazz. Fortunately, my dad has all the records and stuff. Speaking of family history, is it true Craig Flint isn't your real name? No, it's real. Don't know where the people saying Craig Flint isn't my real name heard that, but they clearly haven't seen my passport or my driver's license or my tax return. They all say Craig Flint. Why would people think that? Before we wrap up, I have to ask a question that I'm sure is on the mind of many Florida Squad fans. Is it true there's going to be a Florida Squad movie? Ha ha ha, I'm the wrong person to ask about that. You'd have to ask Eric and Sam. I think they'd be fools not to consider it. It's a great idea. I'd love to do a Florida Squad movie. Okay. All right. Still looking for the Chiefs nickname. So now we've wrapped up this left side here, and all we have remaining are these documents down here. So first here we have a letter from his dad, who we now know they're not in good relations, at least from Craig's point of view. Dear Craig, since you refuse to see me or return any of my calls, I've decided to write you this letter. I'm so sad about us. You're my boy and you always will be, but I've totally lost you to your fame and fortune. Please remember that your success is not some God-given attribute that you were fated to receive. It was me who pushed you to be successful. If it hadn't been for me, you wouldn't be a TV star. You'd be some nobody, stacking shelves at a grocery store. You owe your success to me. Wow. You owe your fame and fortune to me, and I deserve some of the benefits. You might not like to admit it, but it's the truth. You can't deny family. The birthmark on your neck is just the same as mine, even if you do hide it with your concealer. Ooh, a birthmark? Is that important? You may brush me off as just Terrence, but that doesn't change the fact that I am your father. Okay, so his father's name is Terrence. We are forever linked, you and I, and there's nothing you can do to change it. Sure, you'll just say, but the court order, but I don't recall the court providing you with new DNA. Okay. I'm coming to Miami next week. I'm going to be staying at the Milton Motel for the weekend before I drive down to Key West on Monday. Oh, we did hear from Terrence, right? I need to go back to that document. If it helps, while clearing some stuff out of the attic, I came across a whole load of old family memorabilia. You mentioned a while ago you wanted to find out about our family history. Would you be interested in having it? If so, please get in touch before my flight leaves on Thursday, April 4th. Okay, so is that supposed to be ruling him out as a suspect? Please get in touch either way. We can work out our differences. P.S. Here's a photo of us from 1965. I wish we could go back to those days. That's the son I remember. I barely recognize your face on the TV. It's been too long. Oh, okay, so that photo then is of them. It looked like two brothers though, right? They both look kind of young. Let's go back. Let's take a look at that photo. I guess not. I guess he does look older. So this is Craig and Terrence, the dad. Don't see any birthmarks from here. The necks are covered up. Wondering if there's supposed to be something in this photo. Some sort of clue. I don't know. Oh, and also we see this guy with the... Oh, I'm connecting it now, right? These are probably the drugs. And this is the airplane that's smuggling them. We'll have to see this plane number. Why is it on film though, right? You would probably see photos if it was someone spying. Oh, and I want to check out the other document really quickly about the Milton Motel. I thought I saw something before that mentioned Terrence and Milton Motel. I don't know. I'm just going to have to move on for now, but it sounds so familiar. Okay, I'm not sure if I see it again, then I'll make the connection. But for now, let's move on. So we do have these maps here. 1 inch equals 1 mile. This is front and back. And here it says drive from Oceana to McRae Bay Towers, approximately 11 minutes with no traffic. Oceana Tower is right here. Milton Motel. Okay, it's right there. Nightclub. Jake's Diner. Southwest 3rd Avenue, Southwest 15th. McRae Bay Towers, Zero's Bar. Okay, so we're gonna have to do a lot of timeline work here. So where's Oceana? Oceana to McRae. That's from this X all the way down here is about 11 minutes. And that is about what? 1, 2, almost 3 inches, about 3 inches. So we're gonna have to do some math too. Oh, do these connect? Hold on, let me see really quick. I think they do connect. All right, this is as good as it's gonna get, but I think this is Key West, right? I'm not too familiar with Florida. All right, we're definitely going to come back to this and figure all this out, but let's move on for now. So next there was this envelope with 2 documents inside. The envelope is delivered to Sam Reed and the return address is Steve Fryer at CRM Studios. I don't know if we heard that name before. So here's the first document. It's a call sheet, 1 step further to something. Is this the same show? It seems like a different show. Unless that's the name of the episode. No, this is with Miranda Wyatt, who plays Pam. Bill Preston is Nick. Stunt artists. None of these names look familiar. Props. Nick's briefcase, makeup, blood, and scratches. They have explosions, a wrecked car, nurse on set, craft services. This does place Miranda from 8 p.m. Oh no, makeup, 8 p.m., ready 8:30 p.m. And the scenes, Miami Beach scenes, they're filming scenes at the beach at night. Okay, is this supposed to be an alibi for Miranda? All right, let's just read the second document. Dear Detective Reed, per our telephone call today, here are the documents you requested. I can confirm that filming went ahead as planned without any changes to the schedule/call sheet. We managed to wrap things up at 11:30 p.m. I hope they are of use to you in your investigation. Could you please return them when you are done with them? Yours faithfully, Steve Fryer. All right. I don't know if it clears her, but we do know where she was until 11:30 p.m. And then if we can have a placement wherever they were shooting, we would know how far she is also. I wonder what these numbers mean. 271, 281. I was hoping to see something on the map. I don't know. Let me check the time of death again. So we have Craig is between 1 a.m. and 2 a.m. and she wraps up at 11:30 p.m. So that's plenty of time to do something. I'll just note too that she was in makeup at 8 p.m. So I'll just say 8 to 11:30. We're gonna have to really map out like all these time frames though. Am I missing a name here? Are these names, have I seen them? Pam also has some doubles. She has 2 doubles. I don't know. We'll just keep moving on. All right, we have our final 4 documents here. Here's McRae Bay Towers. We did have a document from McRae Bay. Let me check what that was. McRae Bay Towers. So that is where Craig's apartment is, which makes sense why this is addressed to Craig. I see you've taken to cowering in your apartment, too spineless to face up to me. Well, you can't hide forever. You'll have to face up to me sooner or later. It might have been just another fling to you, but you hurt me on 2 fronts, and you're not getting away with it. In the meantime, take these earrings back. After all, it's not as if you bought them. Yeah, he stole them. I know where they came from. I saw them on the side in the studio while I was fixing your fixing your complexion. So this is Maria. And they just remind me of that brilliant job I once had and of how you destroyed that for me. I really should have given them back to the studio, but I thought I'd let you do it. After all, you stole them, so I'm giving you the opportunity to do a decent thing and return them. I'm challenging you to actually do a decent thing in your life. This note was in an envelope addressed to Craig Flint in his letterbox in the McRae Bay Towers lobby. I could have just read this to find that out. Inside was this pair of dolphin earrings. Okay, so that's where they come into picture. This is Maria, and Craig stole the earrings. There's no date on this letter. Let's just move on. Another note from McCrae Bay Towers. Notice it says PTO down here. Okay, so this is from Frederick Helm. Well, actually, no, these handwriting is different, but this was front and back. Okay, I don't know. Let's read the first one. Arthur Johnson. I guess that's who wrote this. I was a day concierge yesterday, Friday. It was a standard day for the most part, and for the majority of it, I had no dealings with Mr. Flint, though there was an interesting incident towards the end of my shift. In the morning, Mr. Flint came to me and said that his father was coming round, but that he was going to play a prank on him and have his stunt double from Florida Squad meet him instead. I think another document did mention that. As part of this prank, they were going to have a pizza ordered, and I was to bring it up to his apartment, all the time acting as if Mr. Flint's stunt double was Mr. Flint himself. Seemed a bit weird to me, but I didn't want to be a spoil sport, so I agreed to go along with it. At 7, Mr. Flint's father arrived and asked to see Mr. Flint. I rang his apartment and, as expected, got Mr. Flint's stunt double, who told me to let him up. A while later, the pizza man came with Mr. Flint's pizza. I took it up to the apartment where the stunt double and the father were. I acted as if the stunt double was Mr. Flint. The father was clearly doubting it, but I think my conviction that it was Mr. Flint helped push him to believe the ruse. Mr. Flint and his stunt double do look remarkably similar, but their voices are different. I felt a bit cruel making this man doubt reality like that, but I assumed it was part of the fun and that Mr. Flint would reveal himself after a while and shout, "Gotcha!" Either way, I returned to the lobby, and a while later, I saw the dad leave. A while after that, I saw the stunt double leave. The last thing regarding Mr. Flint that I recall was when Matt Lane turned up and asked to see Mr. Flint. Lane turns up pretty regularly. I asked Mr. Flint once, and apparently they're both fans of Hong Kong Kung Fu movies. And Lane has some sort of import video subscription thing, so sometimes they watch together, and sometimes Mr. Lane just pops in quickly to drop off the latest movie. That sounds like they hang out a lot. This is conflicting with what Craig was saying in the interview. I rang Mr. Flint's apartment, and Flint said to let him up. That was shortly before my shift ended at 8 p.m. After that, I handed over to Freddie Helm, the night concierge. So his shift ends at 8. All this happened before 8. I'm not sure how relevant this is. I don't know if this whole thing about the Kung Fu movies is important. Okay, so that makes sense. The backside is Freddie Helm, the night shift concierge. My name is Frederick Helm, and I work as a night concierge, night security guard. I was at the front desk last night. My 12-hour shift started at 8 p.m. Aside from the drama of this morning, last night was like any other night here at McCrae Bay Towers. The drama of the prank? I remember seeing Mr. Flint's friend, Matt Lane, come down shortly after I began my shift. That was the only involvement I had with anyone to do with Mr. Flint until just before 1 o'clock. That's when a woman appeared asking if Mr. Flint was in. I'd seen her with Mr. Flint before, but I didn't know who she was. As is procedure, even when it's late, I rang his apartment, but I did not receive an answer. She asked if she could go up to Mr. Flint's apartment, but I refused, as is procedure no matter how many times they've been up there in the past. She decided to sit and wait in the lobby. Normally we have a no loitering policy, but since she was familiar, I didn't make her move on. If anything, it was nice to have someone to talk to, though she wasn't really in a talking mood last night. She stayed in the lobby for about 45 minutes before asking again if I would call up. I tried again, but again, I got no response. She asked if I had an envelope and some paper, which I did. After writing something down and sliding something into the envelope, she slipped it into Mr. Flint's letterbox and left. Oh, okay, so that's Maria. So now we have a time frame for that letter. After she'd gone, I checked the logs, and Craig Flint's key card was used to enter the parking garage at 1:13 a.m. this morning. I can confirm that no one swiped in between then and when the police showed up to put the place on lockdown. Let me explain how the underground parking garage of the McCrae Bay Towers is protected, as it might be helpful in your investigation. Before the outside shutter to the parking garage, there is a control box where residents swipe their key card and type in a unique 4-digit code to raise the shutter door. The resident then drives into the garage and approaches the inside shutter and a second control box. Once the outside shutter doors fully close behind them, the inside control box is activated and the residents can once again swipe their card and type their 4-digit code to open the inside shutter door. The idea behind the dual shutter system is to ensure that unauthorized people can't just run in and cause mayhem when the outside shutter door opens. The idea behind the dual authentication system is that if a resident has their card stolen, the thief can't just gain access to the property without also knowing their unique code and vice versa. It sounds like a lot of hassle, but we have a lot of rich and famous people living here and they appreciate the added security this system offers. After all, the paparazzi will stop at nothing to get the photographs they need. I digress. I should also mention that the shutters on the exit ramp do not require a card or code. There's a control box before each of the exit shutters with nothing but a button on that, when pressed, raises the shutter door. It's the same deal where the inside shutter must be fully closed behind the resident before the outside shutter can be activated. Every resident is assigned a key card, as well as letting you into the parking garage. The key card also unlocks the lobby door that leads to the apartments. Residents are assigned one and only one key card. If they lose it, then a new one is assigned and their access code is changed to invalidate the old card and code. As one final layer of security, a PIN tumbler key is then used to enter the front door of each apartment. That's a lot of security. All right, let's just move on for now. Oh, we have a decree for changing name. Is this what they meant by that's not his real name? That's right. Okay, so his original name is Terrence Oscar Makachev. Oh. Oh, that's why it sounded familiar. I don't know why I couldn't find it. So that's the third victim. Okay, anyways, this document just says that he changed his name to Craig Dexter Flint. Let's go back to that document then. So yeah, that's Terrence Oscar Makachev. This is the autopsy. Police say stimulant drugs were found in the subject's motel room, but I did see the name of this motel before. It's on another document. Okay, what I think is that he stole the little baggie inside of the stick shear. It was the dad who stole the drugs in the gear shift compartment, secret compartment, and that was these drugs with the rat poison in it. So it was a new drug that Craig got, but he didn't know there was poison in it. That's just my theory for now. But that's kind of sad. I mean, I know he didn't really care about his dad, but now he's dead. Okay, so this is the document I've been searching for that had Milton Motel. So this is his dad. Now this timeline becomes very important. He still could have done it. Oh, okay, yeah, he was going to see his son. Then he was going to watch a movie. Yeah, that's the movie in the newspaper. So let me go check what time that is. So Pippin, if he was checked in, he left at 6:30. There's a showing at 7 p.m. and 11 p.m. We don't know which one he went. And then the runtime is 185 minutes. Pretty long movie. I mean, who's to say, like, just because he says he's going to do something, it means he went there and he stayed for the whole movie. I'm just going to note it down, okay? So he sees him return at midnight. Okay, so definitely wasn't the 11 p.m. one. Actually, this information is kind of irrelevant now because he returns at midnight. Or maybe not. Well, we'll have to see. He was breathing heavily and it looked to me as if he was in pain. Yeah, because he took the drugs already. I think that's it. He came back at midnight. And if he was back at midnight until, he passes away, I don't think he's a suspect for Craig's death. I'm not too sure, but I think I can piece together that he was the one who stole. He's the one who went into the car, broke in, and then stole the drugs. We'll have to see. I think we have one last document to go. And this is Miami Central Bank safe deposit box. All right, this is Craig's safe deposit. We have Craig's apartment address here. Number of keys, he had 2 keys. Any further persons have access? Yes. And his stunt double. And we have the stunt double's address. All right, and what was in there? Photo negatives. Is that the photo negatives in our evidence? So why would he keep photos, possibly incriminating photos of Matt in his safety deposit box. And is that why he wanted him off the show? Or that was his supplier, and maybe he was trying to cut off all ties to the drugs? Don't know. That'll do for this video. We went through all the documents. Hopefully in the next one, we'll solve this case. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to give a like, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Look out for that next video coming soon. We'll see you then.